Okay, welcome everybody. It's 6 p.m, so let's start. Welcome to the Finance and Governance Committee. The first task this evening is to elect a new chair and vice chair. Can I have a proposer for chair, please?
The proposed Councillor Jill Levens.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, second.
Any other proposals? Can we have a vote then on that, please? Unanimous, thank you.
I think standing orders of this committee says that the leader of the council chair the meeting of the FNU.
That's fine.
Yes, that's it.
So can we move on to vice chair? I think current standing order should be the deputy leader of the council.
Can I just point out, is it okay within standing orders for a person to be a chair and a vice chair?
Of different committees?
Yeah,
Yeah,
different
yeah.
committees. Well, if you're proposing it, well,
So I'm proposing Steve.
I can't second it.
So we need a seconder. Dawn will second.
I'm delighted to accept the nomination.
All those in favour? It's unanimous. So apologies for absence.
So we've got apologies from Councillor Messon, Councillor Strain-Francis and Councillor Morton.
Thank you. Anybody got declarations of interest in relation to items on the agenda? Finances.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Claire, item 11, it's devolution of assets from Cheshire East Council and our portfolio holder for assets.
Well, as a Cheshire East member, I'll declare a non-pecuniary interest.
Mine's not
Non-pecuniary.
Yeah, it's not.
Not pecuniary. You're not getting any money.
Financial gain from it. It's my fault.
Yes. So item 4 is minutes of the Finance and Governance meeting 28th of April 2026.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I'm happy to propose them. Councillor Hogben will second them. All those in favour? Thank you. I think we were all here, so that's it. Yeah. Let me just sign them. So, public participation is item 5. Can't see any members of the public in the room. Have we had any questions?
No, we haven't.
So we'll move on to item 6, which is to review the year-to-date financial position and material variances. Liz, do you want to start us off?
Thank you. So we're still relatively early in the financial year. There has been limited spend to date. You've got a full breakdown of all the income and expenditure by budget heading from page 6 onwards. There are no material variances and no areas of concern identified at this time.
Anybody got any questions?
could you just a question on the conclusions? It says due to increasing delivery, increasing delivery productivity, administration of accounts has increased.
The number of invoices that we are processing, and I think due to the increased tax and events activity and ranger activity, and so that was just to explain that when you look at the payments at the next stage as well.
Is that causing any particular problems?
It's manageable. It's just a lot of invoices to go through, as I'm sure when people look at the payment book.
Right, okay, well, thank you.
So I think that is just to note or to review. So we've reviewed the spending to date. Item 7 is to consider and approve payments to date. Recommendation to council between 1st of April 2026 and the 30th of April 2026, the value of £108, £279.27. So this is, we'll need a vote on this because this is to be recommended to council. Has anybody got, do you want to start us off, Liz, and then we'll take questions?
All the payments are there. There's quite a number of payments which are made, particularly with regard to grants, because a lot of the grant scheme payments have gone out. As you can see, all the payments are listed. We've got events payments for Picnic in the Park and Crew on Sea, which accounts for some of the larger payments.
Anybody got any questions?
No. Well, this is just basically a.
It is just April, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to propose that we recommend this to council. If anyone happy to set this second, all those in favour that we recommend this to council. Thank you. So item 8 is the draft earmarked reserves provision for 2026-27.
Thank you. As you'll see, the updated earmark reserve position is attached from page 12 onwards. You'll see that there are some new earmark reserves that have come into the list, and also some that are disappearing. So, for example, earmark reserve 372, the community strategy, will now go back into general reserves. It's 2,400 left within that, but all the work has been completed, so that will be removed for the next occasion. We've got Cleaner Crew in there as an earmark reserve, as well as ranger storage facilities and alleyways fund. Most of the new earmark reserves have come from Public Services Committee, but you'll see on page 13 that there is a description of the different earmark reserves and their purpose.
Anybody got any questions?
Yes, could I just really ask them to query from a recent grant application on 339 allotments. The new EMR created allotment starts to commit to tree and hedge maintenance as soon as the nesting season, which is 5k. So on what basis was the grant given to the Ruskin Road allotments for a hedge trimmer at £375? Because if there's anything within that site, it will be on an individual plot that will be done by a plot holder. So if we're going to cut the hedge, which, you know, Vice probably accepting that we put this in, I'm no arguing for that, by the way, because that's across all allotments.
Yeah.
Okay? I just don't understand how we've given a grant for that when they should be funding them themselves if it's on their plots. Just an observation.
I think this is discussed at Public Services.
Well, it went to Public Services, and there's a report went to Public Services which is publicly available to read, in which it states that, as it stands, at any rate, any hedge maintenance well, it's been pretty limited. That's quite plain because that's why there's this allocation for some money later this year after the bird nesting season and so forth, for hedges to be cut. Now that may be done by contractors, but in between times, the rangers have come along to temporarily to clear the alleyway behind that and the light. And it explains the access to the alleyway. You're talking many meters. I don't know the total meterage, but you're talking 100 or 2, so it's a fair amount of hedge, which in the short run will be maintained by or be cut by. I understand it will be by contractors because only the rangers haven't got the capacity to go around all the allotments. But in between times, the council has only got a few assets, very few, say, land assets. We're talking about the offices, some land in the railway cottages area, and the 11 allotment sites. We are the landlord, aren't we?
Yeah.
So there's a landlord responsibility to ensure that the borders are kept clear. The allotment holders there applied for trim or whatever to take work inside the allotment and keep it down. The committee took the view. Well, this is tenants, allotment holders, offering to do work, and at the end of the day, this will actually reduce any outpayments we make to such as the contractors. If we're paying thousands of pounds to contractors for 11 allotment sites, it tells you it's going to be £1,000 per site to cut hedges, and that's just once. If we've got tenants and allotment prepared to undertake that work, that is a great offer.
Investor save.
It's an investor save. I think that's a very good phrase to use. So that was essentially the view on that one. And then there's another one as well, but that's the answer on that one. And further to that, anyway, later in the agenda we'll come to the various policies that are being updated, and then significantly we can touch on it then. The allotments policy, which basically has been rewritten we'll come to that later in the agenda, and that includes reference to an allotments improvement fund, which to cover such things. So then it's available across the piece to reasonable requests, subject to tenants and the allotments meeting the terms of the lease. So it's that's to tighten up the management of allotments, one could say. So that's how that one came about. I hope that helps.
Yeah. I've no desire to you made a decision. I accept the decision of the subcommittee. However, it's an observation that I think I would have looked at it differently.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Has anybody got any done?
Yeah, it was just really 367 John McBride Trust. I didn't make the subcommittee, so I just want the 3 proposals to cut. What were the 3 proposals? I'm not seen any minutes of the subcommittee.
No.
Apologies, I'll send those out. The 3 proposals were 2 murals on town centre locations to potentially cost, and then the most significant part of it was an oral histories archive for key people within Crewe, so from Crewe Works and the factories. So this can be curated and go into the archive centre. So we've got a focus on people within Crewe. So at the moment I'm going out to try and get quotes on how much that would be. But I will send the minutes out.
There was what the subcommittee came to the conclusion was they wanted something that would be a heritage, would be the
oral history. I've got no no challenge with murals. I hate as in some records.
So I just think it was something to leave a heritage. We also did talk about some sort of signage that actually told people what this historic building was. Because we've got a couple of blue plaques, but if Ben does that history walk, and if he had some signage with actual historical pictures on, that would probably help him.
Yeah.
So it's about leaving a heritage.
Info boards, yeah. So no, I've got no problem with that. It's the murals which, you know, we seem to cover up with buildings or fences, and so people can't.
Well, hopefully we might get some better
I think
signs
we do
going forward.
some due
Yeah.
diligence on that to make sure they're in key location.
But they're all histories, and if you want somebody who actually does that type of project, I will.
Okay,
Yeah,
brilliant.
community memory makers.
Stephen?
There's, well, there's certainly one where I've got a question. Yeah, it's the very first one, 322 elections. The payment for elections. At the end it says Cheshire East Council have confirmed election costs for 2027 will be nearly £28,000. I thought, now I obviously wrong in this, I thought that the routine elections for borough and town councils and parish councils were all covered, the cost of them were covered by the Cheshire East Council itself, and that the liability for any election spending from the town council only related to by-elections, casual elections in between times. Is, you know, and so that looks to me as if that's not the case. I've just wondered that.
No, it's not. That is correct. There is now a charge for each electoral sessions to all towns and parish councils.
We've recently had correspondence from Cheshire.
Yeah, they've changed policy.
They've sent a full breakdown for each
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, it was part of the budget amendments 2 years ago.
Right. Okay. So that's a fair amount of money for something that's going to happen anyway. But I see. So that covers the whole of the borough, all 110 or whatever these parishes and towns and so forth.
It's on a sliding scale of number of residents, isn't it? So yeah.
But we've always had an earmark reserved for elections.
Was a by-election, Jack.
But no, I think we have always contributed something to the full elections, because that's why we had an earmark reserve.
So, not until they change, no.
No.
Anyway,
It explains that the policy changed by Cheshire East Council as part of the economy drive. Okay, we're talking of economy drives, and is that 373 Cleaner Crew is at the bottom. That's the whatever. I think it's the £45,000 unspent budget from the last financial year. Because the Cleaner Crew project didn't happen and we didn't spend anything. So we're taking a decision was taken, and I think it was approved by the council, wasn't it? I'm not sure. Anyway, 25. That there was the council would be willing to commit a portion of that to early wins during the current financial year. Might all include all sorts of things, like provision of skips or community cleanups, which is mentioned here. So that's a positive. The Cleaner Crew project, I know we're not here to discuss that. So, but you know, we do know that the Cheshire East Council is not in a position to support that. So effectively, we decided, well, we're going to do it ourselves, do our own version of that, based on what we or the people of the town want to see done within the budget that we've got. So that, I'll just comment that to ensure that, to try and ensure that we actually get some early wins at an appropriate time for these areas, you know, like that the allocation of that any such allocations are made by the public services manager in conjunction with in consultation with the chair, who happens to be me now. So it's yeah, the financial decisions that Cheshire East Council is having to make obviously have their consequences for us, and what things that we either want to do or have to do. That's all really on that.
Thanks, Steve. So that is just to consider the updated draft. I think we've done that. I think people haven't been able to ask questions about that. So we don't need a vote on that. So we need to go to item 9, which is to approve.
Sorry, Chair, but it says in the conclusion, I don't know if this is right. Oh, it says
To consider.
Yeah, I noted for further consideration prior to recommendation to council in June. Are we recommending these to council?
Well, the agenda doesn't say we're recommending, it says consider.
Does it say I recommend to council?
Earmarked reserves, item
No,
8.
it says nothing as well.
No, it says consider. So
It
that's, so
says,
Liz, do we
noted
need,
for further consideration prior to recommendation to council in June.
Yeah.
so we've got a difference between the agenda and what it says on the end of the report.
I think they are for consideration. I don't believe they need to be recommended to full council
No.
approval.
I don't know. Council does have a slot for earmarked reserves, doesn't it?
Is that if we made any changes to that? If we'd have made any changes?
Oh, actually, it could be. Because these allocations have been decided by committees,
They
haven't
have,
they?
yes,
Delegated.
Yeah.
We're not changing.
We're not changing that.
So
So if you're happy to consider and note them.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
note them, consider and note them, and but I think that will be presented. The full list will be presented to council,
Yeah.
as from committees. So item 9 is the internal audit report, which is to approve it, and consider the draft annual governance statement, which is section 1, and recommend both that things to the council. So the internal audit is on, has it got page 6?
Page 16.
Page 16 is recommendations about what we should do, any changes that need to be made. Liz, do you want to start?
Yeah, so we've literally just concluded the internal audit. It went well. We have an action plan with only 3 recommendations, which is on page 17. The first one identifies that we haven't reviewed or approved an annual risk assessment during 25-26, which was slightly, I'll not say unfair, we missed it by a couple of days. I think we did it in, we just missed the 12-month annual. We did it like 12 months, 2 days or something. So procedurally, it's something we need to look at for scheduling future meetings. However, we now have completed a review in this financial year, so we will be compliant next year. The second one relates to pay awards. So when I notified the accountant about any incremental pay awards, I didn't copy in the leader of the council, which is my error. So I will implement that into future pay awards. And the third one, I incorrectly completed box 11 on the AGAR, and I have now changed it. So nothing too major.
Anybody got any questions?
I have included the annual governance and accountability return purely for full transparency. This has to get approved at full council. So it's just for review and recommendation to full council for approval.
yeah, could I ask?
Yes.
On page 20.
Yeah.
Just I can't read it very well, but on C we've got a no.
Yeah.
What?
That relates to first recommendation. CIA report, the authority assessed significant risks. No, we didn't within the 12 months, and that relates
Is
to
that
the
what
first
that refers to
recommendation.
in that?
Yeah. So
That's
all of
fine.
the no's are those 3.
Right, so I didn't.
Yeah, it's not very clear.
Oh no, it's not. No. But I mean, the rest of it is I don't know, we've got a yes in everyone apart from if it's not applicable, obviously,
Yeah,
just that one, so that is a good version from your perspective,
yeah,
isn't it? That's quite positive.
positive, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good.
So any other questions? Right, is anybody happy to propose that we recommend this to council? Steve, seconder, Dawn, all those in favour?
It's all right,
I saw your hand.
don't
All
worry.
those in favour? Thank you.
I'm doing it again.
So, we're on to item 10, which is the following policies. If we take them one by one, summary sheet of changes to policies, which I assume we'll just go through as we go through the policies.
There aren't many changes to most of the policies. It's minor changes apart from the allotments policy, which has had a bit of a full rewrite, which is why you've got an additional document with all the track changes on it, so you can see the significant changes that have been made. This has been necessary to bring the allotment policy in line with the lease. So we've cross-referenced all the provisions of the allotment policy against the lease obligations to make it legally compliant and best practice. So we've reviewed some of the guidance that's available for local councils as well. The main changes in the allotments policy also include the fact we are introducing a site checklist. So when the public services manager goes out, we are consistent in what we're checking and we can request their accounts. We can make sure they've got all the health and safety and environmental policies in place. Additionally, we have attached a bee and pollinator policy. So we want to try and increase biodiversity and support allotments to move in the right direction with regard to this. The policy also includes a new provision for an allotment improvement fund. This provides clarity from a grant making perspective because the community committee had received grants regarding allotments. Therefore, we will be asking people to read through the allotment improvement policy. Again, for consistency, the policy documents will align to the same criteria as the community grants, so there's no disparity there.
Anybody got any questions? In that case, I'd like to make 2 comments. Page 27, it says submit accounts annually to council. I'm not sure how diligently that's been done in the past, but I assume that any accounts submitted to the council will go to the Public Services Committee. Is that correct?
I would expect that to happen. I think there needs to be full transparency there, and it isn't something I think we've previously requested from site holders, but it's good governance for us to do that.
And I can see that we've got good governance and financial recommendations and so on. My other point is on page 33, which relates to the grant policy, which is about halfway down bullet point 2 under conditions of funding. Provide evidence of this expenditure is requested. I think if you're given a grant, they should provide evidence of expenditure.
Yeah, if requested, just should be taken away. It should be provided for evidence of it.
And the rest the same. But can't see, for me, from my reading of it, a clear system of evaluation. Can't see, as we would in the community grants, it coming back to committee to be checked that the money's being spent appropriately.
And to what the grant was given for, which it says notify the council of any changes to the project. Well, that, still isn't, I think, sharp enough to say you can't make any changes to what you got the money for unless you get approval for it.
I think what's there is fine, but I think there needs to be that last step where, as a council, we check that the grant we've given is actually being spent on what we gave it for, and it's been completed.
And if they want to deviate, we've got to come back and ask for any deviations.
So it's, I think the bit that's missing is the
Which is what-
evaluation section that you would
Yeah.
get on the community grants.
Yeah, so I think it can be just lifted from the community grants and applied in the same way.
So that policy would need updating before it goes to council.
I need to go back to public services.
So we wouldn't approve that and recommend it to council, but it would go straight to council.
Yeah, can't we just, between yourself and the chair of the committee,
And the public services manager.
Public services
Yeah,
manager is
of
on leave for the next 2 weeks, so won't be available for full council. We'd have to delegate it to myself. And
Oh, it's delegated to the clerk and
The clerk and the chair of the committee.
to make
Yeah.
a decision.
Chair of which
public services.
Well,
Yours.
that's fine. I mean, it's that's why it's in there.
yeah,
It was actually very useful that the one positive outcome from the reference of the those two grant requests from communities to public services in particular was the review of the allotments policy, and that was done. I have to say it was done very quickly because the communities committee met on the Tuesday and the review was happening more or less within 24 hours, 48 hours in time to be actually submitted as a. Well, it was a late item. It still met the deadlines, I think, for notification. So it's perfectly reasonable. We did make a couple of very small amendments, thanks to in part to Councillor Strain Francis, who made one late amendment that was on the amount of money that might be spent rather than would be spent. But yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that.
I just think it would bring it in line with the communities.
That's fine. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think it's for openness and transparency, make sure that we're actually what with the money we've given has been spent in the way that we agree. We then have got the beekeeping policy. Don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. And the allotment site visit walk around checklist.
Which
So-
is a good idea. So
I think that's an excellent idea, but can I say, will those reports come back to the public service committee?
Yes, so the plan is for the public services manager to do a site visit for each allotment site annually for those reports to go back to public services for review.
and then we go to share the checklist with the allotment holders prior to the visit.
We would
So-
definitely need to, rather than just
Try and
turn on, yeah.
to promote sort of goodwill and everything else. This is what we'll given the fact that this should have most probably been in practice anyway, and it's not been. I think we should sort of give them a few weeks and then notify them of the visit before they pay us as well. So.
I think it's meant to be collaborative in a way, helping them.
Something I wondered about, I don't think we discussed this out at the meeting, but it was at the public services meeting. As a checklist, it's fine. It can be added to, taken away from, to suit. I thought, but is this primarily for the member of staff to do the inspections, or is there any thought? I just wonder what you think. Is there any thought that members might be involved on a voluntary basis?
I think that's up to members, isn't it, to decide.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just wonder what people think.
Do you want to take that back to the public services committee?
If the dates of the inspections are released, and then if members want to, they notify the officer that they will be.
I think it needs to be decided by the public service committee if members are going to be involved.
So that basically,
The
what you're
principle.
saying is that our assumption is then, at the moment, then that these site inspections, as it stands, will be undertaken presumably by Lindsay or somebody else. But say Lindsay primarily. I think it would be good if that was taken back to the committee for consideration. What are the feelings of that committee then to the involvement of members? I'll say now, I think it's no bad thing to involve members if they want to be involved. But yeah, happy for that to be considered, obviously, by the committee, and they'll say their piece, and if necessary, these policies are there to be amended, aren't they? So if it required an amendment at the next council meeting just so that to say as much, then that's fine.
I think it's better the Public Services Committee decide that rather than FG.
Yeah, fine.
So that's something to go back to Public Services. So we next on to the reserves policy. Take a vote on the a vote at the end of everything. So the reserves policy.
There's 3 very minor amendments there. Just added an annual review requirement for general reserves, risk-based reserves assessment, and to strengthen the wording on EMR justification. And these are all just best practice guidelines.
Any comments on the reserves policy? So we move on to standing orders.
The main amendment required was in respect of a change in legislation, just to update it. So the Public Contracts Regulation 2015, which was specifically in Standing Order 18CF, needed to be changed to the Procurement Act 2023. And that was the only change, and just use best practice by avoiding thresholds. That was what was recommended as well, because the thresholds can change quite a lot. Therefore, we would just say we would use best practice rather than stipulate a specific number.
Yeah, okay. Standing orders for contracts.
The main changes with regards to this is concerned post-Brexit terminology and removal of reference to EU directives for procurement. And I've referenced the sections that have changed, so section 5.3 and section 12.2, which includes permission for an electronic envelope, which wasn't there before.
Any comments? Right.
Can I just say that one of the, it's not, I don't want to change anything there, but one of the, when the council was set up, there was an encouragement that we should get as much involved with our local people and services as we could. But that isn't always the case, we can't always do that. But the first port of call should be locally contractors and so on and so forth.
Oh, look, supporting local
Subject to
business.
the usual.
I think that's some best practice that officers still have regard.
I'm sure they do, and it's not. It's just a reminder that we, that sometimes we have to go to Norfolk. And we understand that, but at the end of the day, our residents live in Crewe pay for all these services.
Right. Financial regulations.
Very small amendments of the financial regulations, just in the sentence at point 9 requiring multi-factor authentication for card purchases. But I've checked the NALC, the National Association of Local Councils model financial regulations, which remain the latest version now, as compliant with that. So I didn't see the need to make any further unnecessary amendments.
So they meet the national standards.
They do.
Any comments? Council Code of Conduct.
Again, minor amendment in that, which again is best practice across the regulations from NALC. It was just stating that councillors need to be mindful when using digital platforms when acting in a personal capacity if it's perceived to be acting as a councillor. And that's the only inclusion I've put in there.
What? I can understand. What's the one when using digital platforms? Conduct, is that all specifically laid out?
It's literally that sentence just to cover that as a whole thing rather than going on the different platforms. If you went on Facebook and said something which could be perceived to be inappropriate, even if you're acting in a personal capacity, it could be deemed inappropriate as a councillor.
Even though you've done it, isn't it?
Personal
individual,
yeah.
A councillor therefore.
Right, okay. So that's bringing it up to date, really.
Yeah.
Got to recognise
Right.
current circumstances in.
Right.
No,
Right.
I've finished what I started, so I'll finish. To recognise there can be problems in some areas. say no more than that.
There have been problems on other councils in those areas.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's just good national good practice and a
Yes.
mindful reminder of all councillors.
Is there some appropriate training which could be given to councillors and not, to all councillors as a refresher, as a new training? But,
Could we look
sure
into that?
the LGA have got some
Yeah.
training that is appropriate, because we haven't done updated on GDB and PR training either.
Okay.
And you do it as part of your induction, but I think it should be annually reviewed.
I
I think
did.
it should. But there might be online courses that people could do.
There is LGA have got online modules
Okay.
on it, so
I did send an email out a few weeks ago about CHALP training for council refresher training,
yeah.
but there were no takers, so I can send that out.
Suppose it was chat.
Okay, if people prefer to do LGA, I can have a look at those and circulate some information.
Which is which is really what we can do. Co-option policy.
Again, as outlined,
What page is that on?
it's page 25.
10D1.
Section 5.1 needs to be amended post-Brexit eligibility to change the policy from qualifying Commonwealth citizen and reference to the EU and remove the EU reference. And a slight
the summary.
Yeah, the summaries there.
Yeah.
So basically, that's removing EU references.
it is, and then the slight change to the way that the statutory title of local elections was listed incorrectly. So I've just made that the correct statutory title, but it's the same statute. Right.
Then we're on to committee terms of reference.
I haven't made any changes apart from the new review dates for it to be reviewed next year.
We would expect a new administration to review it anyway. And then lastly, environmental and sustainability policy.
So that's still reference the Cheshire East Environmental Strategy, which expired in 2024, and I've seen that there isn't a new environmental strategy in place. So I have removed that, but I've just put we are highlighting our commitment to work towards net zero and increasing efficiencies regarding energy consumption, and kept that broad until we want to reference any new strategy.
I'm sure we would do an environmental communities committee.
There isn't one listed on the website currently.
So it's partly private from the net zero or nothing. I'll check that out.
Right. So that's the end of the policies. We're asked to review the following documents as part of the annual review process, and then I think they would go to council for agreement.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at what we're voting on, the allotments policy we're not voting on, but we are voting on the beekeeping and the visit sheet. We're voting on reserves, standing orders to conduct, financial regulations, council code of conduct, co-option policy, committee terms of reference, and environmental and sustainability policy. So I'm happy to propose them. Is anybody happy to second them?
Happy to second.
So Dawn will second.
To be perfectly clear then, we're talking about an allotments policy. You said you're mentioning two appendices to that which we're voting on, which is, I suppose, fair enough. But we're not voting. Surely we need to take a decision, at least here on the allotments policy, to say that subject to amendments to be agreed, or to be delegate the authority to Liz as the clerk.
Well, let's deal with the policies that we're happy with.
Well, I'd suggest, frankly, then that appendices to the allotments policy need to be taken out of the
right. Okay.
the
so let's vote on the rest.
Yes.
Right. So all those in favour? Thank you.
Yeah.
So we come back to the allotments policy, which needs an updating. So I will propose that the allotments policy is amended by the clerk and the chair of the committee. Is anybody happy to second it? So Dawn will second that, and then so we're not at present recommending that policy
That's fine.
to council. So all those in favour? Thank you.
But if under delegated decision and then they come to a conclusion, then that will be taken.
The full policy will go to council
Yeah.
At the next
That's
meeting.
right.
at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
And
So
I'd
that
be
would be-
very grateful if then there's the suitable wording, and because council's only a week after next, isn't it?
Mhm.
20 or
23rd. Yeah.
So it needs to be. We need to sort that out. Should be possible to do that properly.
Yeah, we can sort that.
It's only adding a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
huge thing to do.
Right. Just so that I'm aware that presumably then that will be sort of added to the stuff that comes from Public Services Committee
For recommendation.
for recommendation. It's direct to council. Rather, I mean, the decision we took then was to refer it to here for consideration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be, however you do that procedurally, it goes, that specific recommendation goes, whatever it is, to go straight to council. I'm just thinking of what words I'll have to say on the 23rd.
Right, okay.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Right. So she's updates on devolution of assets, services in Cheshire East Council. Liz, have you got anything to add? Well,
Page 145 is a summary paper regarding this. It was merely an update because it was a request from Councillor Yates to go on Public Services Committee for discussion, but then it was agreed it was better to come on this committee for discussion. At this stage, I don't know how much further along we are than when we had a meeting at the devolution subcommittee group, other than to say I was attending the task and finish group along with councillors at Congleton Town Council, and we are looking at quick wins for this financial year of potential assets rather than services, and that there'll be a further meeting in 3 weeks' time.
Just also
Dawn,
to
do you
add to,
want to-
well, just to also add to that, it's also looking at how we move things on at a faster pace. So looking how town and parish councils procure the legal services to actually support those transfers of assets. We understand that some assets will also need transfer of services because those sit alongside or sit within those assets. But it's looking at how the use of templates, agreements and SLAs, how they can be actually produced quicker by Cheshire East Council to actually, and Cheshire East Council will also be looking at the capacity within their services to actually identify whether they need to procure outside sort of legal services or property management services to actually aid those quick wins to move those forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, for those you can say, there is a task and finish group now, cabinet member for task and finish group. So we're hoping that things will move probably quicker than they have in the past.
It's been set that a timetable that we'll meet every 3 weeks.
Which cabinet member?
Rob Byrne.
But myself and Jill are also sitting on it as observers, and I'm chairing the next meeting as well.
So yes,
Congratulations,
we're hoping that things will begin to move, but we can't guarantee it.
Will it have any, do you think, I might as well ask the question now, do you think it's likely to, I mean, we've got to consider our budget in, it might be June now, but 3 months' time or before we'll start discussing and considering next year's budget. So obviously we need to know fairly quickly
Yeah,
if there's going to be implications.
yeah, we've the sort of briefing, the outline of it is that it needs to be, hence the reason for every 3 weeks, because we are aware that towns and parishes have a very early setting of their budgets and their business plans and their precept setting. So that it's the timetable is to be in line with that budget setting processes of towns and parish councils.
Yeah. So hopefully when we get to December, we'll know what we.
We're hoping that when we come to September, there'll be these quick wins will be on the table and ready to go actually be to the collaboration, Chalcar, talking to the smaller parish councils and seeing if this collaboration, if there's services that they want to sort of see being delivered more locally, but because they're not big enough, they can't. But is it under collaboration and with the support of one of the larger town councils that they could be collaboration? So those conversations are going to be going on as well.
Quick wins, is that next year or is it something?
Quick wins will be before March 27.
So it's going to have implications for the current budget then?
No.
No.
The quick wins will be identified, and there might be some that we can take over, and some towns like ourselves who have a reserve budget could be in that position to start delivering some of those quick wins. But it might be more that when they're identified and in budgets for 27, 28 for other parish councils. But there might be some towns and parishes that have, the transfer of toilets to Winslow Parish Council is going to take place, Steve, and it's been on the table for over a decade. But that is taking place, and they have that in budget, so that will take place within the current financial year.
Thank you.
And we're pursuing other things which Crewe Town Council have got on their list. So I'm already talking to our legal colleagues about what's sitting on their table and sitting in their inboxes, and why it's sat in their inboxes when we could be moving it on.
Because I would sort of think that right, with yourselves being observers to that working group, it's vital that there's feedback by some means to members and officers of this council, so that we can kind of.
Liz is sitting on the task group. Task administrator.
Yes.
Even better.
Yes.
So there is feedback.
Yes.
Will there be a need for you to feed things back to members as we go along?
Would you like this on full council as an agenda item, or does it keep to the subcommittee group and then
Keeps the subcommittee group. Yeah.
It's what we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if we move on to item 12, which is report relating to civic functions, which is on page 147. Has anybody got any comments on? I think Councillor Brown and Councillor Kai being very busy. I'd like to thank them for their service to the council. This is some very interesting places to visit. Right. We have then item 13, which is a report on the website.
And we'll see the stats for both April and May. Again, both very strong months, but May was an exceptionally strong month. Predominantly due to the local events that have happened recently in the comments regarding crazy races, which is very positive. And we are communicating better with people through more interactive posts and trying to promote some of the grants work that we've been doing. And we put out our first community spotlight video for Chance Changing Lives, which the comms officer had done, taking a video of just doing key snaps and just having more visual comms rather than just standard static posts. And we continue to get very positive feedback on the ranges.
Has anybody got any questions? So thanks to the comms officer, and because I think this is something that we need to build if residents are going to understand what we do as town council. I think that's important.
We certainly need to be blowing over the coming months. It is important to be blowing trumpet in one way and another, and not just the coming months throughout the piece. Because I think sometimes we should perhaps be a bit too modest, sort of publicising things, saying, "Oh look, what's happening," and but not blowing the trumpet. Well, I don't use any other expressions.
We've got some good support for Crew Day on the 4th of July. We are working with Discover Crew, who have agreed to fund some of the marketing and fund support. And they have devised the leaflet which goes out for the day, and a poster and a press release that Jill approved, Councillor Rhodes approved, which will go out. And yeah, we're doing more of that. And I think it's really important just to try and promote our events. I think some feedback was that people say they don't know events are happening. So we're looking at where we can get more information out through different channels rather than just Facebook.
I take up view on that because I've started challenging people. Oh, I didn't know this event was going on. So, well, it's like the Afro Caribbean Festival. People didn't. Well, there was posters all over. They did a countdown from 30 days down to the event on social media. They had big signs up all around the park, all round the on signposts. So I did go back to these people and say, tell us how we could do it better. Tell us, advise us where you want us to see it. You get no response back. They're just moaning for the sake of moaning that they didn't want to have gone to this. No, they wouldn't have gone to it. We just want to have it, make out that, we're not doing anything. So yeah, but I continue to challenge in that way, is saying, asking them, well, where should we be putting it? It's been on enough views. It's been on, on our Facebook page. It's been on Insta. So, where should we be putting it? Please advise.
Yeah, just on the use of these, it's the report back from comes up on social media and comes in general, but yeah, Facebook seems to be. It seems to me from what I'm reading else on other things that there seems to be a lot of attention being given to a couple of platforms, or whatever you call them, which I'm not going to subscribe to. But Instagram is the places where people like to have photographs of themselves doing stuff.
Yeah, we use
Instagram and TikTok and all this, and God knows what else. That's Snapchat. I don't know. Lots of them.
Not doing bad. You're not doing bad.
You're not doing bad.
I can't get onto them. I've just heard of them. That's all. And there's all sorts of others. So many of them. And it's keeping pace with that, actually, because we know very well, don't we? There are a lot of auditors about and self-appointed monitors who walk about with cameras on sticks and publish them instantly for live streams. There's big competition there, isn't there, for attention on what's happening right now. So yeah, that's an area where maybe I think we mentioned of trade. We need to, as members generally, not everybody wants to be on Facebook and I don't blame them for this in the slightest, or any of the social media, but if those who are, as Lorna said, I spend a certain amount of time challenging people. I try to be polite, because even if I'm just writing this myself, not in any official capacity, you try to be sensible, and invariably, occasionally some people will like it, and more often you get the usual suspects and others. But there has to be some challenge, and at the end of it, especially, I don't know how much negative stuff we get on our Facebook and other posts from the town council. I'll probably get quite a lot of good stuff, but whatever. There's a role there for councillors, if they feel like it, if they've got the time and inclination to kind of support what the council's doing in a way that Donna suggests, challenging people who just come up with nothing happens in Crewe. There's nothing in the town centre. Well, there needs to be a stamp. We need to have a box, don't we? There's lots of other people got bots that sort of instantly say, here are the events for the next 6 weeks, or this is what's happening in Crewe, because it's a bit tiring for an individual to sort of sit around. We've got 25.
Just look on through Town Council's websites. All our events are listed there, and it's the same with the carnival.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a case of please move on. And we now have Pride events. We have Picnic in the Park. We have a Filipino festival. We have the Afro Caribbean festival. We have Crew Day. You know, we have evolved.
I think what you say about promoting events, I think if members are happy to promote like the posters on their own Facebook channels, that would be good.
We do,
as well.
I do.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
everything that goes on Crew Town Council gets shifted straight
Thank you.
to Crew South. You know, and I know that Crew East and Crew, that they do that as well, as do the the Labour group. So on our we'll forward them on. So
that's very much appreciated. And we use the Afrofest as well because obviously we provided some funding to promote our events, and we had a banner which was put on the front of the Afrofest stage promoting Picnic in the Park.
yeah,
So we're trying to work better and smarter with partners like that to cross promote events and support each other, which is good.
the banner that's on the park, on the railings and that, the actual date is lost. Unless you're actually sort of right on top of it. All that pink is lovely, but then you actually have to search for the date. But it's not bright enough, it's not bold enough.
We'll do better next year. I think we've left it too late this year to do it, but certainly we will.
Well,
A lot of leaflets have gone out digitally to schools, and we've got a big print one.
Yeah.
And been distributed.
That doesn't it doesn't
Good
stand.
feedback.
Yeah, that so it's positioning of where that is. That could have been better if it was if we were going to use it's a green down there. That's the only sort of
I think what we have to remember is that we've got a heck of a lot of, as you just mentioned, all those different ones, and Crazy Races only the other week. There's, to me, it's not so blind at those that don't want to see.
Yeah.
Because Crazy Races, thousands. Picnic in the Park, those 3 or 4 bands, I mean, that one band alone, I've danced to that band. I won't mention it.
How many years ago?
They will get, well, I just get on with it, but they will get thousands there.
Yeah.
So it's not the where we put it, it's whether you think that suits you. So last week, it wasn't a very nice weather. I don't know the numbers they got, but there was people there. It was full of liveliness. It was full of integration. It's all the things that we, as a council, try to promote. If you have blinkers on, I said, well, I'm not going there. So that's up to you. But I don't think there's anything wrong because you won't get thousands. You're doing it the same way.
No, and I put on the praise as well for that group because I walked to the park on the Sunday morning afterwards. And normally after an event, the bins are overflowing. They've not been, the grass is full of debris of food and everything. And my dogs will find any stone that's going. And it was spotless. It really was spotless. The bins have been emptied. The bins, there was nothing on the ground. Litter had been picked up. So it was, and I went back to Cheshire East, that's the standard that I want to see after every single event.
Yeah. And it was the same with Crazy Races as well. There was some criticism that we left litter behind on the day after. I went and did a site visit the day after. It was spotless apart from one little pile of litter which the rangers were picking up because it was just a normal litter pick. And it was really impressive how hard they worked just to make sure it was clean and we left no traces.
Yeah, so...
I'm going to just say in conclusion, the one that was last weekend, that festival allowed the race to go on in the park, the park run, which attracts up to 400 people every Saturday morning. On Sunday we get the youngsters. So I mean, these are positives that accrue. But I mean, we don't fund that, I don't think. But these are positives, and they said, yeah, you do that, we'll still manage to do that. And I think that's really positive and good.
Yeah, those conversations. Yeah.
I think for the first year of the festival as well, we'll have such success in the first year.
Yeah, and as it should be, they managed the security really well. We would expect them to because it was Ken Lord.
What's going on?
Yeah. So, but that there didn't seem to be any crossover at all like that.
Right, thank you very much for that. I think that's a good comment on the website. So we're now moving on to consider and approve recommendation to fund a winter sports programme. Where's the start?
Thank you. So this is a report from the community manager requesting funding for winter street sports through the Wishing Well, and they are seeking an additional funding of £23,400. It has previously been funded by other organisations, but the funding has now been withdrawn. The recommendation is for funding, and there is a further report, which is additional information which has been requested, which provides information with regard to delivery. Of course, there were some concerns raised about how it works alongside the new youth zone as evidence of usage for this project, and additional information provides important statistics showing that the project to date has been successful, that the winter sports for the previous season delivered 64 sessions from November to May, with 1,298 children attending during that project, which is an average of 20 participants per session. In actual fact, Wishing Well delivers a summer sports programme and a winter sports programme, and they found that the winter sports programme was better attended than the summer sports, which they were quite surprised with, but it was nice for them to see that children were coming out even when perhaps it was dark evenings and they weren't staying at home in front of their computer, and they're out and about doing sports, which is why there was the recommendation for us to support this. Come to F&D today because the request has arisen since the annual budget was agreed. Therefore, the community committee hasn't been able to support it because all of their budget is allocated. And again, the main rationale behind supporting the activity is the positive use of parks with regular organised activity, because regular use of the parks can reduce antisocial behaviour within the parks, preserve the digital assets of play equipment, and reduce vandalism if they're used more frequently. It's also good for children's health if we're trying to encourage, a reduction in childhood obesity. It's very positive to support from that respect. There's one slight further bit of information for your consideration in the additional documents with regard to refreshments. So if consideration is given to support the main body of this and the removal of refreshments, which would reduce the cost slightly, then I would ask you to give consideration to that.
Right, any comments? Dawn?
Yeah, on the refreshments, if you look at actually breakdown on page 168, the refreshments is being funded by Wishing Well. We're only being asked to contribute to the staffing, the facilitation of it, which isn't the full cost of the facilitation anyway. It's to because they're funding 17,000 of their facilitation. They're funding 8,000 of the general expenses and £2,000 towards equipment. So we're only being asked to fund a proportion of the facilitators' cost, which is 23,400. I'm happy to support this, and feel the same, that it's getting children in off their seats, etc. What I am not happy to fund is that it's delivered through the Crewe Youth Zone. That I feel that it should be going out to the parks which the council has refurbished, either Pebble Park or Westminster Park, that in the Crewe South area and the areas which the reason for us doing up those pocket parks was to create these spaces for young people, and I think especially with Pebble Park and the investment that we're putting into there, that this will coincide with that development being done, and then bringing people on to see the new developments that we've done in Pebble Park. So as I say, I'm happy to support with the caveat that we don't, because they've got youth workers, they're going to be doing that through that, and you've got to pay to go into the Crewe Youth Zone, be a minimal charge. What this is, as our street sports, our philosophy was free sport, free delivery. So I think we should continue with that.
Anybody else got any comments?
Yeah, mine is on reference to where the summer ones took place. if you look at the document on 162, there was only 3 sessions between the 1st of July and the 18th of July that took place at Westminster Park. From the 18th of July through to the 17th of October, there was no sessions at all within Crewe South and no in Westminster Park. Now, we know that Westminster Park and that area has got the highest number of HMOs. The local schools have up to 33% of EAL students. So and if you go to the primaries, they can have up to 70%. So we're talking about an area that needs investment. It needs this sort of thing. Now, whether it's right to do it in the middle of winter will matter. But up to now, they haven't shown to me that they have a commitment. Now, there might be a reason that not many come, but I want them to come into our areas because the Pebble Group has got its issues as well. But that seems to be, to me, to have things that happen there and will do when it's finished. But there's nothing there that convinces me if that is the way that they look at it, and I shall be against them promoting it through the winter. Because I don't take this where more people go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll go and let the kids go on to it there. I don't accept it. And they always come to the council. Now, why has that been withdrawn? Why do they always come to this council? Oh, well, it's easy, they're bound to give it. I don't think that's right. And I don't like the way that they've done it. They've done the same parks all the way through, and they've left Crewe South out. And I think it's appalling.
Steve, have you got any comment?
Well, it's certainly very noticeable. I don't know why it would happen. But you know what John had just pointed out, you know, that it's Leighton Park, Derby Docks, McLaren Street, Queen Street. It's amazing because there's no doubt when it comes to children. I mean, Crewe South is recognised as has been for a long time as an area of multiple deprivation. Yeah, as you said about you know the local schools and the HMOs and all this. I didn't endorse that sort of thing. It's a fact. It is an interesting question about the winter sports. When it's at 4 o'clock in the evening, are the lights of Westminster Park actually going to be open? Or some of the other places come to that? I don't know. I mean, that has to be considered. I mean, winter sports might be better to try and at least keep them in the daytime. I'm not sure that it's free at the point of delivery. Is it the best idea for kids to go down the park when it's dark? I mean, some will be shut. You know, for Queen's Park, what time is it shut in the winter?
4:30.
4:30, because it's dark. Is it good having young kids, young children?
Well, that's the reason Queen's Park shuts at that time, is because there is no lighting in Queen's Park.
Yeah. So I mean, they need to be safe. Whether that's possible in some of the
which is part of Pebble Park's improvements. It is the lighting. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what happened, to be honest, what the proposals are for Westminster Park. I mean, Westminster and Valley Park are the last 2 of the pocket parks.
Yeah, Westminster's underway now.
Yeah.
But I do still have an issue with Scottish Power there, who cut the cables 4 years ago and have not repaired them. So I've still got an ongoing issue with.
So I think I'd agree absolutely that, you know, central, east, even north are involved. Queen's Park is west. It is notable. Crewe South is missed out, and it is there's a series of suitable parks. And I agree with you. You know, the big investment's gone into Pebble Park. You know, £200,000. It's got to be somewhere on the programme. Yeah, I support that completely. The request, the firm request that it includes one or more of the venues in Crewe South, as it does Weatherwater and St Barnabas as well. In fact, it's the only Crewe ward that doesn't figure on that programme.
in principle, if it was reflective and consistent across each of the wards, would there be more of a consensus to support it in principle, or would it require further information about lighting and
My question is, how time sensitive is this? If we're not delivering it until October, how time sensitive is it?
Yeah.
I think they need a decision pretty imminently, because if it gets deferred today to the next, it wouldn't go to council on the 23rd of June.
They need to secure staffing.
They do need to
know
secure
how to, and put a programme going forward. I should imagine, even at this, it's not something we can secure staffing.
Well, as it stands, I cannot support it because I cannot support them delivering out the youth cell. And I can't support the fact that there's nothing for Crusoe, which is one of the most deprived areas. So as this proposal stands now, I cannot support it.
Can we defer it to Chair and Town Clerk to have those conversations with Wishing Well and subject to
Plus the fact they're saying that they delivered 64 sessions. They're not saying where they delivered them. And to be quite honest, if it's a horrible night in December, you're going to be more inclined to deliver around the Jubilee House because it makes sense. Because if it's cold, you've got somewhere you can take them in than you are in Westminster Park. Let's be honest about this. So I've got a question about how viable it is, and they say they delivered 64 sessions. Well, to me, that's over £400 a session. I don't know, my maths isn't very good, but it's a considerable amount per child. If you think their only average attendance is 20.28 children.
They were saying it's £21.27 per person.
So we're talking about a 2-hour session that we're paying £21 per person for them to deliver. So if you're looking at it in terms of value for money, I'm not saying there's not the need for it, but if our council felt this was a useful thing, we would have commissioned it, and we haven't commissioned it. So I think there's questions around it, but like you two, I cannot support something that's to be delivered out the youth zone, because as far as I'm concerned, the youth zone is staff, and children shouldn't have to pay in the youth zone to get in. I just can't support that.
Would it be more viable? It's looking to give support to keep children or young people occupied in the winter months. I mean, it might not be through this means, but I mean, if there's interest in doing that, then it's a simple thought. Well, it's only about 50p entrance, isn't it?
Yeah.
The members that are there, 50p, and you've got access to all sorts of. There will be access to loads of things there, right? Through Alex, saw this the other day, and came to one of the local schools, the Internet Friday. They're very, very shrewd. They were dishing out basically kind of little mini season tickets, basically saying, swipe this QR code and you can get a free ticket to watch the Alex. This is for under 11. Well, it doesn't say, of course, you only have, under 11s have to attend with an adult, 12 youngsters. It's only a quid anyway. But they were promoting something. Probably it's a minimal cost. They're only losing £1 per child that might go along and maybe gaining money from elsewhere. But the notion's quite a good one. Is promoting the use of that facility. With the youth zone, if it's 50p, only 50p entry, there might be more sense saying it's a little 20p per child to do some activities. So sort of £20. If there was some sort of scheme that's 50p, here's your voucher, or whatever.
I mean, that's up to the youth zone to decide, isn't it?
I think
Well, yes, but I mean, it is a way. It's a way forward. It may not be something which is can't decide it just like that now, but that's another alternative, isn't it?
Yeah, but the other alternative is to look at, as we discussed in communities, was that it's an extension of the summer, this summer programme starting earlier and ending later, right? And then and what you're saying about those sort of really dark months, whether we actually sort of give we have a scheme where, that if you can't afford to your 50p to go in, that we give those vouchers out through the schools, we can target pupil premiums or.
So basically what we're saying is, if I'm wrong, tell me, that 3 of us can't support this current scheme because it's coming out of the ESO and it doesn't tackle anything to do with Crusoe. So that, I think that's correct. They delivered 64 sessions in 8 months. So you work that out. They're not delivering many sessions a week. And I would be happy to say, in principle, we will support something around winter support for children, but not as this proposal is. So we can say in principle we will support them, but we want a programme that we decide as a council and we will commission. And I think your idea, Dawn, of extending the summer programme to start earlier and finish later is probably more realistic than trying to deliver something in a December evening.
Have a break of 2 months or 3 months.
Well, from November onwards till February, you're not going to get much happening, and they haven't. If they've only delivered 64,
and then it starts again February half term.
So I think we're happy to support them in principle, but not with the proposal they brought forward.
Okay. One thing I would highlight is when people then go to the youth zone, that they are trying to target the children who would never set foot in the youth zone for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think they're looking at children who perhaps wouldn't want to go
I
there.
don't. How are they? It's not explaining within this how they're actually going to get those people from. If they were actually saying, well, our sessions are right, 4 sessions, and then we take them to the youth zones. So we're encouraging people to go, but they're not actually saying that, are they? So
plus the fact the youth zone has a minibus that goes round. It will have a minibus that goes round, picks up children. It's already picking up children who've got antisocial behaviours.
That sounds a little bit like the child catcher or
Talking to the schools now.
But the youth zone are already talking to schools. They're already looking to get them who wouldn't normally go to a youth zone. So I appreciate what they're doing and I appreciate what they want to do, but in this current form, I don't think so.
I think really the broad suggestion and the decision really for this committee is: are we prepared to draw money from reserves to support something to extend, build on the summer programme, and maybe something or other do winter months, not necessarily in the dark parks, but Christmas holidays. That's
different.
That is different, I would say, than a holiday. But I mean, we're being asked to consider: well, are we prepared to commit some money to supporting young people, activity for young people, an extended period? And the answer to that is yes. The question is how much, and then how you go about it. And actually, the youth zone is due to open shortly.
End of summer, hopefully.
End of summer. And then, I mean, they're well, interesting. You say they're already approaching schools. Well, that makes sort of sense, doesn't it? There could be some useful discussions there about this to formulate.
And it's about some of those, like you just mentioned, Christmas holidays. Well, those don't have to be at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Those, so we could say, well, actually, during we see that it's dark periods, but actually, sort of Christmas holiday, you can put on a full programme to attract people around the Christmas holidays to give them, not everybody can go away or has lots of family activities going on during the Christmas break. So there is some targeted work to be done there to support families during that period. And that can be sort of 11 o'clock in the morning, aren't it? It doesn't have to be in the darker periods. And you've got that. So if we're extending the summer programme to the end of October, and then you've only got, you do Christmas and then you start again in February, we're not actually reducing the sort of, but we will need a new scheme building up to.
So my proposal is that in principle, we say we support winter activities, but we would look to have a different programme which meets the needs of all the resident children in deprived areas, or offers a programme to all the resident children in deprived areas.
And bring that back to F&G, the next F&G.
Yeah. So they know that they will, and then it would be
I think
between.
we need to know as well what the plans for recruitment for youth zone are, and how they're going to, engage with those areas as well, and what they expect.
So
and if we
and then-
could leave some funding aside to actually those people that Wishing Well engage with, who want to go to Crewe Youth Zone who can't afford, then perhaps there's some way that we can actually support.
I think it needs a lot more thought.
Yeah.
So
And not
Yeah.
and the last bit of it would be that the communities manager discusses with Wishing Well a different programme or a new programme
Which meets the wishes of this committee.
Yeah, I mean, I've no doubt they do. I no doubt they do a lot of good work in the winter sport, in the winter things. But we're spending public money, aren't we? And we have to be sure that we're spending it in the way that benefits the most residents.
Okay.
So I'm happy to propose that. Is anybody happy to second? Councillor Hogben is seconding. All those in favour?
Thank you.
Sorry about that, but I just think if we get this right, it will really benefit children, and I think that's got to be the.
I think it's very positive, honestly, that there's been this discussion, a genuine, you could say, debate or whatever. There should be more like this.
Well, it's if anybody listens, then it shows that we consider very carefully how we spend the budget. Yeah. And on item 15, to consider the purchase of notice boards.
Thank you. This is a request from the manager. Previously been sought to draw funds from reserves to purchase notice boards across town, but this really derives from the community strategy, which is where people were saying we're not necessarily accessible with regards to how we display information throughout the town. The first proposal recommends a notice board in Queen's Park, and on page 171 there is a picture of proposed notice board where our branding will be added, and on page 170 at the bottom there's a proposed place where it would be located by the Friends of Queen's Park, by the cafe, which is a prominent position where new bike racks and benches will be placed anyway, so that'll be a place where people will be able to see the information. There's a lot of footfall in Queen's Park, so it's a key location for us to promote
it would
activity.
benefit from there.
Yeah, you'll have 400 park runners going.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Has anybody got any comments?
no. Where are we proposing though across others to be positioned? So I'm happy with the one in Queen's Park. To, add in asking for one in Crewe South for some time.
There used to be one on the square, didn't they?
Or press a button and to the town centre was the one by Marks and Spencer.
There's several.
The request is made to, if in agreement, for an agreed number of notice boards to be sited around the town at prominent places to be agreed in specific wards and key locations, perhaps where they've previously worked that aren't currently there anymore. I think it'd be nice to have a brand new notice board which is looked after and has up-to-date information. The one at Queen's Park, the Friends of Queen's Park, have said that they would keep that updated with information that we send them, which is very positive. So if there are other key locations that you feel would benefit,
Well, the Nantwich Road Action Group has discussed through Harry Developers for Nantwich Road area.
Yeah.
This goes back many years, but now we've got the crew bit. That's working with the crew bit, the Nantwich Road bit, somewhere on Nantwich Road.
Yeah,
Would be,
I previously spoke to Aldi about using their gable end, which goes front centre, but they wouldn't allow it. So, because we wanted it on the wall rather than as a freestanding, but there are, if we would look more looking at freestanding with posts and installation, there are areas along that, like by Geo's, in that alley.
Yeah, there are. Aldi would be an ideal location.
Yeah,
you could put it in there.
Yeah,
But if we could put it in their car park freestanding.
Yeah, but they won't allow us to put it on the. I wanted one on the wall outside, and we went and had a. At the time, Laura Smith went and spoke to the Aldi management, and they came out and Peters and stuff.
This one, well, the focus is on this one in Queen's Park, which is obviously the one, as you said, been sought for some time. And sort of time, and it's probably the biggest footfall of any attraction in say any location group, I'm assuming. And then there's a whole series of others. I mean, when I looked at the price, it's a lot like £2,000. That seemed an awful lot for notice.
that's the market rate for a.
That's the market rate.
It's the weatherproofing and all the materials.
That's very. Because there's a number of locations suggested here. I'm not sure the time to go through them.
We don't want to make out of pallets.
But that does it?
Well,
We're supposed to be equal by the council and zero contact and all that lot. We should be recycling stuff, not buying cheese there.
This is sustainable wood, so it's still it's got sustainability and lines with that ethos.
Yeah, we need a sort of to agree a style, which is then sort of pertinent to the.
Perhaps in principle, if you're happy to agree the Queen's Park one, that might be different style to the others because that is more located within the park. The wooden one, which would differentiate from the black ones, which would be probably in more urban areas.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've not looked at adding it all up. What's the total cost of what's been suggested here? I mean, they're all seem to be £1,000 or two. Well, say £1,000 seems to be the going price for thereabouts. Or some of them are more. Wall mounted is nearly 2,000. Right. And you're getting these costs of sort of adding up to 2 or even 3,000. When you add all these locations, a significant amount of money for notice boards.
Yeah, but let's get the first one in first.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, how much was it being asked to agree?
Just to approve that one notice board.
Just initially, it's the Queen's Park one. Perhaps one other as a trial in terms of if you were to look at the second one down, reference 372, which is 1,190, which is in the lower end of the four that are recommended. Perhaps if you agree to that one and that goes somewhere on the Nantwich Road, and then we can look at whether or not that's a success and if it is to roll out on other locations, perhaps.
Yeah, because all the other suggested locations are really more town centre, town centre areas. Whereas, for me, we need to get the message a bit more out into the wards rather than yes, town centre. We've had Jack has had conversations with the library about more use of the library there and having more information up there. So we're going to have that sort of space to actually to town centre, and maybe another one by the new open urban space. But then I think we need to be looking at our outlying wards as well. So
let's agree these two and then we can
which, I mean, there's one.
There's the one in Queen's Park, and the one that we'll say we'll look to site on Nantwich Road.
Well, just to sort of say, I mean, yeah, it mentions near the benches, right outside the lifestyle centre. I thought, I don't know if I've read it here or I've heard it somewhere else, that there's sure I've heard there's a suggestion that inside the library itself, there's a wall that's free.
Yeah, there is
That's
space
what
inside the
I-
library. That's what I've just said.
just
That
referred to.
Jack has been talking to the new
Yeah.
manager of the library
Yeah,
about
yeah.
using that space
Yeah.
and promoting, our events and promoting, even putting up the notice of meetings and everything else, which used to be in the library, didn't they? When we got a meeting going on, etc. So becoming.
And that's got it must have big footfall in the lifestyle centre. You don't necessarily need to have a separate one outside. Have it on the wall or whatever. And
Yeah.
So we move that.
So I'm happy to propose that. Everybody happy to second?
Yeah.
Dawn, right, all those in favour of that spending, thank you. That's unanimous. So I'm going to say the date of the next meeting is Tuesday the 8th of September,
The website.
and I'm going to 16, which is to recommend that the committee considers resolution under section 1 of the Public Bodies Admissions Meetings Act 1960 to exclude the public and representatives of the press from the meeting during the consideration of item 16 on the ground that matters contain sensitive information and by reason of the confidential nature of the business being transacted. So
I'll second.
thank you. All those in favour? So those are stopping the